Hello, welcome to Expat Pod, and welcome to the shorter version, the quick fire questions. If you have listened to the full episode and you're now here for the light-hearted fun part of the podcast, which is a bit more about just getting a few kind of insights into it, then you're welcome to joining us. And if you haven't listened to the main part episode, please go listen to that as well after you've watched this fully. Obviously. So today I'm joined by Jodi, and you've lived everywhere, it seems. But my first question to you is, what's the favourite place you've lived?
I'd probably say every place has its things that you love, and some have nature and some have culture, but I love Manhattan. There's no place like it.
And why is that? What's the recipe which makes it so wonderful?
You're always meeting interesting people from all around the world, like diversities of cultures, fast-paced life. There is always culture to attend, whether you love jazz or theatre or eating out at restaurants, or just everything exists. Plus, living in Manhattan, it was something I didn't know when I moved there, but you really have access to a lot of outdoors. As soon as you leave the island, there's some really beautiful places, and we love hiking and adventure and nature, and that's really accessible, and it's accessible for travel. So if it wasn't so expensive, it would be perfect.
And what's your favourite international food?
My favourite international food? My problem is I love wine and I love chocolate. So I always want to try those. As a kosher consumer, I don't always get to try so much food, but wine and chocolate, those are my two things. And every country has their own versions.
Wonderful. Well, that's a great combination for most evenings, to be fair. What's your favourite international tradition?
I think my favorite tradition is seeing how people celebrate their Independence Days. And every country has a different way, and it says so much about the people and the culture and what they value. So certainly in Israel, like Israeli Independence Day is like a huge day. But as opposed to New Year's Eve or something that's generic around the world, I love watching people's Independence Days.
I feel bad now because we don't have one in the UK.
All the countries that they gave up our Commonwealth, all have our Independence Days from England.
I know, it's quite awkward now. Because I did watch the Swedish Day, and Sweden's quite similar. They are not independent, but they celebrate the Swedish Day, the National Day, instead. So that makes sense. We should probably do something in the UK. What's your favourite thing about living abroad?
It's my favorite thing about living abroad is just experiencing people, culture, places that's just different to what I'm accustomed to.
Well, no, that's such a great thing that you staying curious will always give you the more opportunities to find something new as well, in a way.
There's always a thing to experience that you haven't experienced before.
Yeah, it's endless, I think, for sure, which makes it not boring. What's your best way of getting over homesickness?
Firstly, a good glass of wine cures so many things in life as far as I'm concerned. And these days we have the opportunity to connect on like WhatsApp and FaceTime and that. But I really think one of the things people lose is meaningful connections with people who are far away. And long before WhatsApp and all these things, I used to write letters and call, and the best way to get over homesickness is to still have a relationship in a meaningful way with people. And you can do that. And I think what people just let that slide because they're not there, and it doesn't have to be that way. And then like you'll see photos of your, someone's family or something, and you'll feel so distant, but it doesn't have to feel distant. And these days we have the technology to close that gap. So really, you can really feel part of someone's life to the best possible. So while you could be homesick, you don't have to be separate from them. And then separation makes it so much harder.
I think that's right. I think having what we're talking now on iPad, but in completely different countries, is such a great skill to have. And that's what I used quite a lot with my family when I was abroad, especially when I lived alone and was by myself. And it generally saved me a lot of times in terms of my evenings were spent.
Seeing someone on a video is creates a much more meaningful connection.
What's the hardest thing about living abroad then, kind of piggybacking that previous question?
Like for me right now, the hardest thing is just living in a country that I don't have the language, And I just will never feel as a type A control kind of person who's used to managing in my environment. I don't think I'll ever find it okay to live in a place that, like, it will always bother me because I feel like I'm a little bit blind and deaf at the same time, because you miss some of the cultural thing, like, when, like, and I'm saying obviously with the separation, I'm like making a tongue-in-cheek comment, but miss a lot. I can't go to comedy. I don't understand jokes. Even if you learn the language a little bit, you never get the subtleties. And then culturally, it's different. And so much of culture is around language. So I think it's very hard not to speak a language.
I think it's very true. And also, everyone has a different personality in different languages as well. So you don't know truly what someone's like until you speak to them in their home tongue or mother tongue.
Absolutely.
What's the best phrase you've learned whilst living abroad in any language?
In Israel, we have something that just says Gamza Latova. Like, that's the way it's meant to be. It's like go with the flow, basically. Go there like it was the way God wanted it to be. And I think that, to me, says so much about how life should be. Believing that the way it is the way it was meant to be.
I actually had a license plate kind of from when I was working in a summer camp with Gams Latova on it.
Oh, so you even know what it means.
One with Midos on as well, like good Midos.
Yeah.
I thought you might go with Australianism or something, which usually is quite rude.
No, I could say, like, Australians are everything, like, like, no worries. And I think that in a way reflects Australian culture, no worries. But I don't think it really reflects the reality of most people's day-to-day lives. And I don't think it reflects certainly the reality of the world when I live in Israel. So no worries me, I used to enjoy hearing. Doesn't mean anything right now.
What's your best way of making new friends?
Just having an open heart, open head, and open home. Because when you open your home, you meet people. And when you have an open heart and an open mind, you create connections you never would have believed were possible. And most people don't have either missing one and or three of those elements.
I guess they're just quite difficult to always have open as well, especially if you're going through a lot of stress or worrying things. So yeah, I guess it's quite a practiced approach. What's the best thing to do in your new city? I appreciate you've been to many cities, but we'll go with Jerusalem for now.
I think to be in Jerusalem, I mean, there are a lot of things, but probably one of the most meaningful things is to go to the Western Wall Plaza, which is, we call it the Kotel, but that's the place where we believe the original Jewish temple was built thousands of years ago, and then there's just one remaining wall that's left after all the conquerors have come into Israel over the years and destroyed it. But we believe that's like where Holy of Holies is. But why I love going there is because if you go there on like a Friday night, which is the beginning of our Sabbath, and it's not war, that is, you'll have people from all around the world, or backgrounds, or religions, or levels of Judaism within Israel, and from religious, ultra orthodox to completely secular, and everyone sharing a space in unity and harmony. And I almost imagine that this is like, when they talk about utopia or heaven, or it's like you get this like taste of what it's like when everyone in the world could just come together and be in peace. And I think it's like incredibly powerful. Unfortunately, we don't have so many foreigners visiting at the moment, so it's a little bit muted, but it's one of my favorite things to do because I feel like it's truly like an out of this world experience, and people who have traveled to Israel will all share that. Like, it's just amazing to experience.
Well, it does sound like a place of hope, I suppose, in terms of what
the world could look like.
Yeah, could be exactly. You took the words right out of my mouth. Exactly what could and should be like in terms of we're all different, but we're all the same, and everyone's allowed to smile and everyone's allowed to be happy and care for each other. And my last question is, what's your best expat life hack?
Not sweating the small things, because I think so often we get all anxious about things, and they're just so irrelevant. And your mother always tells you that, like, don't worry about things that are not worth worrying about. We all grow up on that. then you move to a new place and you feel overwhelmed and everything, whether it's like connecting the gas or finding directions or making friends or finding a school or a job or learning the language. And it's not worth sweating over everything. You can spend your whole life stressing and there will always be a new stress around the corner.
That's the thing, and if you're a person who does stress quite a lot, you'll always find anything to stress about, which will just delay you doing it, the action. Because my parents, or my mum particularly, is one who does stress about the small things, even though she said not to do it as a kid. It's just the irony of parents who are probably more likely to stress about small things than you are. But yeah, no, I completely echo that.
And I think when you move to a new place, like, you're constantly aware of the small things that are missing, because when you settled somewhere, a lot of the small things are in place, or you suddenly realize how many more small things could stress you out. And at the end of the day, they're just that, small things, like, and if your gas is connected a day later, and if you fail your driver's license the first time, or you get lost, or I don't know, you could come up with 4 million scenarios that happen when you move somewhere. Or you miss a cultural sensitivity, or whatever the case is. That's just life, and just don't stress it.
Yeah, and if you do a faux pas, just apologise for it, and then people usually are quite forgiving and understanding, because it's different. So it's wonderful. But thank you so much for your time, and thank you for sharing your story with me and with everyone listening. And if you did find something insightful or inspiring, please do let us know in the comments. Please do share this with your friends and family, and anyone you know who would be looking to live abroad, then please do send them our way. And as always, we'll see you next time for the Expat Pod.